Zinzi, especially in Kibra and Kawangware. In just a few minutes, I want to have a conversation with Jonathan Wesaya. He's an education expert with regard to this particular examination and the political climate that children in this country have been on since the beginning of the year, the protracted electioneering period that the country has been on, and subsequently affecting education and their programs here and there throughout the year. Jonathan Wesaya will be joining me from Langata live here on KTN News Desk. Many thanks for joining us here on News Desk, Jonathan. I believe I'd want to begin with the political climate in the country throughout the year with a protracted electioneering period. What kind of effects would this have on the students sitting in this year's examinations, both in KCPE and KCSE?
Thank you, Akisa, for having me. I think for this year, we are going to see the effects of the political disruptions in the education calendar when the results come out. We do not have an alternative system or a parallel system that manages elections away from the education sector. Of nearly the 40,000 polling stations in Kenya, nearly all of them are primary schools. So that has a direct effect. And if you look at it in the rural areas, with our politicians engaging in their campaigns and everything, the only ground that they can land on with their helicopters is the primary school. So this has an effect. We will see the nature and magnitude of the effect when the results are out, but we can only wish the candidates well. My firstborn son is actually a candidate this year, and I'm worried as a parent.
And of course, it's a matter of wait and see as far as results are concerned. In future, if as an expert in this particular field, what recommendations would you make as far as the clash between education and politics in the country is concerned?
You know, when we obtained the Constitution of Kenya 2010, there were attempts to shift a few things in terms of having the education calendar, the financial calendar, different from what else was obtaining, but it did not add up because the intention had been that we delink the financial year for the country from the other calendars. But we have not managed. We have protracted this election into other critical months that then affect the operations of the country. I want to shudder, and it's going to weigh down on the country if in 14 days we get to the Supreme Court and we have a Supreme Court directive that we need to go back to an election. Because that is likely going to be happening within a window when the secondary school will just be getting into their second week of examination for the Kenya secondary the KCSE.
Yes. But then, does that then mean that we really need to rethink these calendars, as you mentioned, the political calendar, the financial calendar, and the education calendar in the country? Is it time to re-strategize on this?
It is important. We need to give it thought. The problem with the Kenyan system is that we operate on what I'll call a minimalist approach, where we only deal with what is at hand and fail to look at the larger picture. When we were deciding that elections need to be happening in August in this country, nobody cared to reflect on the education calendar. But with the new curriculum coming in as guided by the executive director of the Kenya Institute for Curriculum Development into the new year, we are likely going to shift a few dates. But what we need as a country is to look at any event in totality of its lifespan. Who will it affect? What would be the effect? So we have to keep asking ourselves the who and the what question. But what we are doing now, we are dealing with situations, literally putting out a fire and jumping out into another without a lot of thought.
Looking at the marking scheme and how we expect the grading system to be for students this year, and going back to the protests that have been witnessed in the country, the violence that has been witnessed in the country in parts of Nyanza region, in Western and here in Nairobi, this is definitely going to greatly affect students who've had to live each day looking at the situation and the activities in the areas where they live in. So would we expect that it will be a level playing field for all the students in the country, and consequently, how great an effect would this be for those who say would be coming from the disadvantaged areas that have been witnessing more political activity than other areas?
Akisa, what we have to contend with at this point in time is a historical fact. And when I say historical, I want to put it into perspective in the sense that children in Wajir, in Mandera, West Pokot, Baringo, have been going through these upheavals for the last 55 years that we've had independence in Kenya. But nobody has cared to pay attention to them. But we are having this as political, and because it is in the city, it is current, we are able to air it. Psychologically, these children are going to be affected. The whole of the South Nyanza region, parts of Western, parts of Coast, the children are going to be affected by this disruption that is political. But then our system of education is such that you either make it or you don't make it. Now that is the problem. That is why parents and guardians are investing a lot of money and resources in making sure that their children go through a successful cycle of education at the primary level, because then it gives them a stepping stone into the secondary school level. Now, as matters stand, and what we witnessed in Kawangware yesterday, I can for sure tell you that there are children who today have left their homes to go and sit an examination, but they are not confident, they are not sure of their safety, they are not sure of anything, because in their presence, the Cabinet Secretary for Internal Security was harassed and his entourage.
So how do we help our children with this?
We need to help them, but the problem is we do not have time, because as matters stand, we needed to have, you know, some psychosocial support to some of these children who are affected by this political upheaval. But, you know, this was happening very close to the exam. Many of the schools do not have the resources to even provide guiding and counseling support. But also, this is going to hit us negatively by the directive that is given by the Ministry of Education, because some of the children who've been affected by this upheaval are not able to get support from the teachers they rely on, from the people they trust in the school, because those people cannot be in school, because the ministry has directed that it's only the supervisors who are managing the exam and the head teacher who will be at school. So it is two-way. You know, we make a gain, but we also lose another step by the directives that we give.
Thank you very much for joining us here on KT.